Professor at USF, so we're really happy to have someone from USF being here as well. So let's welcome him.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. You guys all hear me all right? Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for taking time on your Saturday to come out here today. This is an amazing turnout. I'm really excited about the next panelists that we have here. Who in here is a creative? Lots of you. It's hard being a creative, isn't it? To get your ideas out of your head and make people see them and then try to monetize those ideas is probably the hardest thing in the world, right? So we've got 3 great companies here today that's going to talk about how they've been able to monetize their business ideas, utilize their skills they built being a creative, and ultimately try to bring social impact along the way. We're going to get into that today. So I would like to invite our 3 panelists up here to join me. We've got Esteban, who's the founder of Echo Bridge. I think he's been pretty famous around here today. Esteban, come on up. We'll get to know each one of these in a second here. Thanks so much for joining us. We also got Camelin, who's the founder of Camel and Beth. I think there she is. Give her a round of applause. And we've got Olivier, who's the founder of Avenue Media here as well. Awesome. Thank you. Nice meeting you guys. Awesome. All right, cool. So we're going to start off, if you guys want to take a seat, there's mics right here for you guys. We're going to start off a little fireside chat, get to know you guys a little bit more. We're going to start with you if you don't mind. If you want to just tell us who your name is and a little bit more about your business, would be awesome. And if you have a mic right there. Here you go.
Hi there, I am Cammie with Camel and Beth, a clothing line located downtown Sarasota, and we manufacture in New York, but a lot of great little cocktail dresses that you can wear to multiple things besides just weddings.
Awesome. And Esteban, thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit more about Echo Bridge?
Yeah, Echo Bridge is an animation company based in St. Pete, Florida. We work on television shows, commercials, music videos, documentaries.
I was just checking the doors to make sure they were closed.
Oh, okay. They are closed. Yeah, so we work for many Fortune 500 companies. You can see our work on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus, etc. We are probably, well, in animation magazines claim us to be the best kept secret in Hollywood.
That's a nice secret to be. Olivier, thanks for joining us here. Tell us a little bit about Avenue Media.
So I'm Olivier Carisi. I'm the co-founder of Avenue Media, and we're a local digital marketing agency and web development agency, and we work with a lot of local companies like law firms, doctors' offices, and then we have some clients overseas as well. So we're not just local, we have some international clients.
Awesome, thanks so much. So who in here watches Netflix? Everybody has a Netflix account, right? You guys are using your parents' accounts or a friend's account. Right? I won't tell everybody, but definitely a lot of sharing going on out there. That's awesome. Thanks for producing that. It keeps me entertained all day, so looking forward to seeing some of your titles out there. Why don't you guys give me a little bit about yourself, about your story, what it is you do, and how you got started with this. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, Esteban, and just start with your story and how you got here.
You want the cliff notes or you want the Tolkien tale?
Well, we have 30 minutes total for this part.
So I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I went to school at Lesley University. I dropped out because when I started going to school, I was actually working at an ad agency. And my professors told me, well, you're doing what everybody else is hoping to do by the time they get out. So get out. Then, I spent a lot of about the first 10 years of my career. I worked in the animation industry for Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network. Then I became the art director for Gameloft, which is a massive mobile company back in 2004. Then I moved up to Canada to take a directing gig for Nickelodeon. Then when that journey was over, I came back to the States in 2008, right during the economic crash. Fantastic time. I lost all my savings. I had practically nothing in the bank, about $200, and I invested that into doing a short film. Got that into the festival circuit, and then I moved down to Florida where my parents were. And lo and behold, ever since I've been here, work's been coming nonstop. We've grown to a company, just for myself working at a small bedroom apartment. Now we have an animation studio downtown St. Pete. We have about 50 employees, a lot of them here locally. It's funny, taking $200, turning it into $2 million, something different.
It's amazing. A great start to this, and there's a lot of things we're going to touch on along the way here, so thanks for sharing with that. Cami, you want to tell a little bit about your story, how you got here? We talked a little in the green room, and really cool experience that you've got so far too, so would you like to share that?
Yeah. So I went to school for fashion design. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and great experience, learned all the basics, and then I moved to Sweden actually, and I was a nanny, and I also worked for a fashion designer who did couture, truly couture, one-of-a-kind pieces, just an incredible designer to be able to work for, and like some of the biggest projects that we worked for was working on the Crown Princess Victoria Sweden, her wedding gown. So we have secret fittings, and it was just an incredible experience. After that, I moved back to the Sarasota area, and I worked as a creative director and assistant buyer. I did marketing and kind of everything on the opposite end of fashion design, which was great. At the time, I didn't know it, but I was learning so much valuable information. And right at the end of my time working for that company, my husband and I were invited to like 16 weddings in 1 year. So everyone got married, and I had so many dresses that I needed, and I really was missing designing. So I'm like, you know what? I have this background in fashion design. I love to do it. So I'm just going to start making dresses for myself, and some of my friends would ask, and I'd make things for them, and just for fun, really. And then just kind of perfect timing. This is back in 2012, right when Instagram started coming out, and Pinterest as well, and just through social media, I really utilized everything with that, and we got our first wholesale order through Twitter. And just, taking it one dress at a time. Like that first order was 32 dresses, and I kind of just sewed them all myself. I didn't know the steps of how to do it. I just knew that I didn't want to say no to this opportunity. So I kind of just went for it, and, just one boutique at a time as well. So from one, we went to 6, and then from 6 stores, we went to 25 stores. And now we're selling to about 50 small boutiques, one department store, and one rental company. So it's grown a lot. And then another part of our business that has always been really a big part of our brand is our online e-commerce site, and that's just been, a challenge, and just always adapting with the way that e-commerce has changed a lot since 2012. So just kind of keeping up with that platform. And then the third entity of our business is our just walk-ins through Sarasota. And it's been growing a lot more, so now we have kind of retail space on our mind, and with the focus of having it as an experience, an experiential shopping experience. So, people will be able to learn more about our brand and just be able to grow that way.
That's great. Awesome. I'm hearing a lot of commonality in terms of things we'll touch on here in a second. But Olivia, why don't you tell me a little bit about Avenue Media and your background, and we'll go from there. Sure.
So I was born in Paris, France. I moved here when I was about 10 years old, and the majority of my family is still over there. I actually graduated from Pineview School. I saw that there was another Pineview student in the room, so that's great to see. And that school really conditioned its students, to go to college and to pursue, I guess, the more traditional route of go to college, you get your degree. And like some of the other panelists, I went to college for about 4 months. I tried it out, and it wasn't my thing. I was too driven entrepreneurship. I was driven by aviation. That was always my big passion. So I thought, I'm going to try to pursue my path and my passion more so than what society is trying to press onto me. So ultimately, I started as a freelancer in the digital marketing world, and I realized that there was a lot of knowledge out there that you could get yourself, and if you were willing to learn and you had the work ethic, you could go and learn that knowledge and then find a way to monetize it. And that's what I did. And at first, it was solely a reason for me to monetize to use my skills and monetize them to then fund my aviation studies. So I put myself through flight school, graduated from flight school, and now as a more hobby, which is kind of a job as well, I fly corporate jets. I'm fortunate that I have business partners that are understanding on the few days of the week that I'm not in the office, so I can be doing that. So my business partners and I, we were all freelancers. We decided to start a digital marketing agency. So we put our brains together and started in March of this year. And we grew the company to 6 figures in revenue in 6 months without investing a single dollar in marketing, which is a little bit ironic for a digital advertising agency. We're pretty happy with that, and it's, I think the relationship we have with our clients is what sets us apart. We try to really have a personal relationship, and we try to keep our client base small enough that we're on a personal level with our clients, and I think that's permitted us to grow in a way that we didn't really even think was possible, at our scale. So now we just grew our team. We just added a new partner to the team. Our offices are in downtown Sarasota, and like I was saying earlier, we work with some smaller clients that are local companies. We work with some Fortune 500 companies, and then we work with some overseas clients as well. So the growth has been astronomical, at least at our scale, in the last few months of the business.
It's great to hear. All local-based business too. I love it. St. Pete, Sarasota. So I love hearing that in the region as well, because I think that's very understated for this area. I think a lot of people still think Sarasota is a sleepy town and there's not a lot of business going on, but to see the entrepreneur community and the tech communities and everything starting to come together are awesome. So I heard a couple things here that I want to touch on. I heard a lot of, I went out and got experience, or I sought out experience, right? And I learned from other people first, and so whether that was going out online and listening to other people, but then applying it, right? Just going out there and putting yourself out. Can you walk me through a little bit about just how it was to put it out there the first time and face that fear of rejection? I feel like a lot of times on creatives, it's very difficult. We create, and it's hard to put it out there and face that fear of rejection. So can you talk maybe about how you put it out there, monetize your first deal, and like what was going through your head on that? Anybody that wants to start?
Who's first?
We got the Twitter experience, so if you want to talk about how Twitter impacted you, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're constantly taking risks. I don't know if it's just because I feel like we're still a smaller company that we're able to, and I love that about it. There's something I always like to live by too. It's either you win or you learn, but you never lose. So even if something happens where, all right, we had this marketing idea and we thought it'd be great, like, we really thought so, but it didn't go through, it's okay. We just keep moving on, and you just don't ponder on that for a long time. You just keep moving forward, like, okay, this is working, so let's keep pushing that. And why is that working? If we try something similar, well, that works the same way. So, I think it's okay to fail, and as long as you're learning, though, and you just keep moving forward with that.
That's a great way of looking at it. You're always learning. For nothing else, you gain knowledge out of it, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Esteban?
I think with my industry, it's either put up or shut up. You either deliver or you don't. You make a deadline, you don't make a deadline. And you don't really get many opportunities to fuck up. All right? Sorry, my French is bad.
Translates very well.
So, the long and the short, my first 10 years as an animator, I've been working up to a director, and I started learning how to produce shows and projects. And I saw all the headaches that they were going through. It's just like finding the right talent, finding the right location, finding the right, everything. And I'm like, God, this sucks. I do not want to do that. So when I started, really it was my reputation. From all the years of working, everyone's like, oh, he's striking on his own. Just send it on over. And then my first deal, it was really more about making that could be good. Because I also knew that if I didn't do it right, that was it.
Yep.
And
your back was against the wall, right? So, you took all of that experience of what you had, and then you applied it, right? And you went out and did it for yourself.
Right.
And that's a big step for a lot of folks. How many out there right now are thinking of maybe working somewhere or not working, but want to step out and be your own business owner today, and are just fearful to take that first step in some cases, right? I know I've been there as well, so.
Yeah, and the animation community, the filmmaking community as a whole is very microscopic. So if you screw up, you say something really bad to somebody, you just treat them terribly, then that's just going to circulate wherever you go. So you're only as good as your last production. And then there's been projects where I'm just like, skimmed the surface, screwing up, and by the grace of God or something like that, I just kind of came in and saved production. Like, okay, well, hey, what we're doing, it's rough. Don't do that again. Okay, on to the next one.
Awesome. Olivia, why don't you talk about how you guys got your first deals here and started that social media business and went from learning, and I think I see this a ton with students particularly, and a lot of people get sucked into the nonstop education. It's just get more education, get a master's, go get online certifications, educate, and they don't apply, right? So how'd you take that leap from doing that to going out and applying and saying, I'm going to have someone pay me to do this now?
I think you you've got to have the right amount of education, but you've also got to have the right amount of execution, because you can be extremely well educated, and if you're not willing to execute, the reality is your education is virtually worthless. You're not applying it to anything. So in our case, when we, all three of us came together, we each brought in some of our previous clients from our freelancing client pool. And one client in particular that I had brought on, we ended up, our company was growing faster than we could manage, and that's the other thing to look out for, and that fear can, also come from a growth that's too quick. It's that we couldn't manage that client, and it was very unfortunate because we had a personal relationship with her, and because the company was growing so fast, we were running into issues meeting certain deadlines, so we had to rectify that immediately. And it was more of a, as I was saying earlier, it was more of a personal matter more so than a business matter. We didn't want to mess up a personal relationship or a business relationship, so we ended up having to seek external help and hiring to make sure that we could meet those deadlines and that we could make sure this client was satisfied. So the fear is always going to be there, the potential rejection is always going to be there. I think you just kind of have to have that first rejection and swallow that pill and just think, okay, it's always going to happen. The next client might not be rejection. Even if it's a rejection, the first time you approach that client, always follow up, always stay in touch, and one day they might change their mind. So I think until you let go of that fear, you may not be wanting to execute, or you may be put off by that first rejection, but I think it's really important to push through and keep going, because one rejection in the grand scheme of things is, it's very menial in the grand sense.
Awesome, thanks. So we're gonna, all three of you kind of have social, right? Because Twitter, and you're doing online ads, and you have to use social media in order to get things out on what you're doing as well. So we're not here to talk about social media in terms of that, right? It's social entrepreneurship. We really want to talk about how do we build businesses and create sustainability, create areas of giving back and working together, and not just for profits, right? I think a lot of times we start businesses and you have to make money. I think there's a lot of times where too many people start with just, I'm gonna have an eco component of this, or I'm gonna have a sustainability part of this. And they focus too much on that, and you're almost like a nonprofit, and you can't sustain, and you're relying on getting fundraising in order to stay alive, right? So did you guys think about building any kind of cause-based or impact-based into what you guys are doing today, or are there things you're doing in your design to think about the environment or think about sustainability or other areas as you're going in this? Or did you guys just go out and kind of think, well, here's the balance sheet, here's the P&L, here's how we make money, this is great, and we need to hire people, fill the buckets, and go from that. If you guys want to take, maybe you want to start, since you're closest, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So whenever we're designing, I always, just part of our brand is their classic dresses that you can wear to multiple things. So I always try to start with a design that you can wear to a wedding, but if a woman is able to wear it to much more than that, then that's the best, because our quality, we manufacture in New York, so everything is American made, fully lined, so our quality is there that you can wear it multiple times. It's kind of the anti-fast fashion, where these are pieces that you can kind of invest in, and that you're going to be able to go maybe from a work interview to a wedding to a party afterwards. I love getting to see where the customers are wearing their dresses to. Most recently too, we just started doing wedding gowns, and it's a small capsule. Talk about where to start. For me as a designer, I felt like designing wedding gowns was very overwhelming, and it's such a special dress, and it is for a girl, it's the dress. So with that though, I wanted to keep that in mind, where it was something that they might be able to wear again, which is kind of tricky with the wedding gown. So we did a cocktail dress with a full skirt that goes over. So my idea with it is that women could wear the full look as on their wedding day, and then either after the wedding or maybe on their anniversary, they could just wear the cocktail dress underneath. So then they just get more use out of it as well. So definitely design-wise, that's where we like to be, and just more use the better out of something, and it helps go a long way.
So the reduce part of the reduce, reuse, recycle side. Okay, cool, awesome. Esteban, do you think about social impact or cause or anything when you're building your businesses?
No. I think it's more a personal thing, at least for me. What do I can't force anybody to put their trash in the trash barrel. You have to talk to somebody about that. I don't know what kind of world we live in. But mostly where I didn't even know what P&L was when I started. I just started. Either you're making profit to sustain yourself for tomorrow or you're not. But I'd also seen like how other studios were operating, massive numbers of people, I don't know, there's a lot of waste. Man hours, time, and I personally think time is the most valuable thing, right? Like, I don't know, money doesn't really seem to be the forefront. It's just, what am I doing with my time? So when it comes to our studio, how we produce projects, my thing is like, look, I want to have a good life, and I know my employees want to have a good life. If I make sure that, hey, we're working reasonable hours, everybody's, for the most part, like, the beer on tap thing, the ping pong tables, all that stuff's worthless. It's like, are these people, paid decently? Are they well? Can they live? Are they happy? Lead by example. So I get in early, I stay late. If they want to do the same, hey, that's great. If not, these are your hours that you're working. Be fair, treat people with respect. As far as that goes, I think that's sort of rubbed off on everybody else in the office as well. It's like, hey, decent dude. Talk to your boss, and he's not going to bite your head off. You can ask for something, he's not going to tell you no. He knows you're a human. You screw up just as much as everybody else. My impact personally, go out to coffee shops, local restaurants, local shops to buy clothing, etc. I think just that impact alone, is a big driving force. I think it's also been a big part of why St. Pete has also started moving. Because companies like ours, we bring in a lot of people, they see it, they like it, they stay, and they just continue to.
50 people is no joke in this region, and specifically, I've got to imagine your average pays pretty well for being in that type of environment there. So that helps impact the community in a lot of different ways. So. And it's okay that part of this is to debate, should there be social cause part of things or not, right, as you build a company. I think the old modern days are just, never thinking about that from the beginning, and that's okay. And then you go all the way to the other side with like Tom's, right, who, buy a shoe, give a shoe, buy a pair of eyewear, give a pair of eyewear as part of kind of in there. There's no right or wrong way to build a business, guys. I think there's a lot to be said about creating 50-person company with creating impact for the local region, because right now that's what this region needs a lot of as well. So thanks for being so honest about that. Olivier, how about you? Do you think about social at all, or any kind of impact-driven stuff?
So we definitely think about social. Obviously, when we started our company, any business owner that's going to tell you he's starting a profit-based company and he's not thinking about profit is going to be lying to you. There needs to be profit, but I think that profit can lead you to have the freedom, whether it's financially, even based on your schedule, it can lead you to have the freedom to do some more social events. So like for us, we spun off from our digital marketing agency. We also have a newspaper that we're starting that's basically aimed at being ultra focused on local issues, specifically even in downtown Sarasota, and see how we can provide change with that. As far as within Avenue Media itself, we try to be fair with our prices, and with the types of clients we started working with, a lot of our new clients have been telling us your prices are too low. We need you guys to increase your prices because they're not as high as what other agencies have charged us. And when we had a client say that to us, it really shocked us because we felt like we were being fair with our pricing. And that can definitely be almost a culture shock when you first see that. And then as far as personally, I love to use aviation as a means of helping, because it's when you're fortunate enough to be in that industry and you're fortunate enough to be in a country where you can practice that, it can help so many people in so many different ways. And one of the things we did with the other pilots that I fly with, we flew relief missions to the Bahamas when Dorian hit. And when you see how traumatic it is down there, how awful the conditions were down there, it makes it all the more worthwhile. So while that may not be directly led by a profit-based business, having a profit-based business that enables you to hire the necessary team or work with the right team, it enables you to do all these types of social causes in the forefront. And I think that's very important. So if you're going to run a profit-based business, it's to not lose track that even if your business isn't doing the social cause, it can also open up other venues for you to do that yourself.
And I think another great part about this region, we have somewhat over 1,200 nonprofits in this area. If your company's looking to get started somewhere and maybe doesn't have a direct correlation with a cause-based side, team up with a nonprofit. I know for our team, a lot of times we go pack food at the All Faiths Food Bank. We hold records out there if anybody wants to challenge us. We like to go out and raise teams on how much you can pack against us. But it's fun because you can bring your team out, get involved, and keep them giving back too. A lot of them, Habitat for Humanity, a lot of your employees want to be able to do that too. But again, they need to be able to make money to do that.
And you've got to have the infrastructure as well. Like one of the other things we've been wanting to do is we're fortunate that the office building we're in just has beautiful infrastructure, and we've got nice conference rooms, and we just joined Big Brothers Big Sisters, and our goal would be to take a bunch of littles with their bigs and teach them Photoshop, teach them how to do digital marketing, teach them skills that they might not directly learn in school, but that they could monetize while they're in school, because a lot of times they come from families that unfortunately don't have the necessary amount of means to put them through college, so it might be a way for them to go through college, or at least to pay their way when their family can't.
Awesome. So, question I like to ask people: biggest struggle that you've had? How'd you overcome it? Obviously, being you're back against the wall personally at $200 in the bank sounds like a pretty big struggle. So, how did you? What is that? Maybe your biggest, or have there been bigger struggles that you went through against, and how did you overcome it as a whole?
I think we face currently is just this, how'd you say, it's like globalizing the market has absolutely wrecked the animation industry. I mean, you can count on your hands how many studios are left on the East Coast. It's a crying shame because people want to do this. There's a need for it. Like, I'm a big proponent that art helps people. Right? Good art really helps people. It's how we look back at ourselves, it's how we understand ourselves, it's how we communicate when we can't use words. Right? So the fact that a lot of this stuff continues to just be done overseas at a fraction of the cost is just like, man, it's wrecking opportunities. I know many people who would start out at our studio, they get the chops they need, they head out to LA or New York or wherever the case may be, and then they struggle to find work because the work's not there. And nobody else is taking the opportunity to say, I'm going to strike out on my own and do something for myself. I need to pay off my student loans. I need to pay taxes. I need to pay whatever the case may be. It's a struggle. And the last thing you want them to do is worry constantly about when the next rent check is going to come through. So that's our biggest hurdle. I don't know how to curb that. Other than we just have to be better at what we do, smarter at what we do, how we do it, deliver it, etc. And I mean it's like year after year that problem continues to grow. And the other part is just the skill set itself. It's one of the greatest masters of animation, Richard Williams. He died a couple of weeks ago. Kind of with that, an entire skill set, history, all it just kind of vanished. There's maybe a few people left who can do what we do. And I think that's why we've been so successful as well, because we kind of practice those traditions, as far as the craft goes. So that's a struggle.
That's great. I was talking to Kenny too behind in the green room about that, and it's a dying art right now of what you're doing even. And a lot of our, I think a big part of life is having mentors and people we can talk to and mimic in a lot of ways, right? To get started, it sounds like you guys have did that. You got your chops at other places. You learned how to do certain things until you were confident to kind of go out on your own in a lot of ways. I see the common theme there with finding good labor, good skill, finding people that are passionate. What do you say to someone that is studying something right now that is a direct relation to what you're doing? They want to do it, right? And they need to get started somewhere. What's your recommendation, I guess, to those folks that hear that there's a dying art, right? But they don't want it to die and they want to be part of it. But then they say there's no jobs as well, right? So how do you combat that a little bit?
Well, with us, our biggest struggle as we've been starting has been manufacturing. Manufacturing, it's so important, especially when you have a product-based business and it's your core, it's everything. And for us, we received a lot of orders before our product had been perfected in a way. I was working with a manufacturer in LA in the beginning, and they had high promises, and they kept telling me things were going to be on time, and I was naive at the beginning. I didn't know, I've never done this before, and I would trust them, and then our buyers would be ready to receive their orders that are kind of time sensitive, especially around holidays, and the goods weren't in, and then I'd be pressuring the manufacturer, and they would tell me, oh, they're on their way, and then, you know, I'd have to take emergency trips out there to try to get everything finalized and see where we were at with production. So, you know, just weeding through production has been a really big challenge. And yeah, we were talking sewing, you know, jobs in the U.S. too. It's a dying art. You know, people, you know, kids aren't learning how to sew, and it's an incredible craft to learn too. You can do a lot with sewing. Just how you think, kind of thinking backwards when you sew. It's definitely something I wish that more younger, the next generation was learning. But yeah, that's always the hard part. But I always say product over perfection. So you got to start somewhere, get it out there. I don't regret going with that manufacturer in LA. I learned a ton. That, you know, I'm just like a lot harder with our manufacturer now. So you know, just
That's
getting it out there
happens.
is everything.
You still keep it U.S. based, right?
We do, yeah. Now we're in the garment district in New York, so it's kind of interesting. Now I've kind of learned that there's different areas of the U.S. that kind of specialize in different types of manufacturing. So LA does great for more like t-shirt lines, or for there's a lot of athleisure now, kind of performance-based. Brooklyn is kind of becoming the hub for more like tech fashion. So there's a lot in that area as well. For us with special occasion dresses and kind of a higher end sewer, they're more in the garment district still. So, but it is neat to see the range.
Absolutely. Olivia, you want to weigh in on biggest challenge and how you've overcome it?
Yeah,
We're going
I'd
to
say-
take some questions from the crowd here, so if you have questions, please start thinking about it. So I'm going to come out to you, we're going to take 2 or 3 questions here.
I'd say our biggest challenge, similar to Esteban's, is kind of the oversaturation of, you know, with globalization. It's a little bit oversaturation in our market. You know, we've got people in India that are charging, you know, a tenth of our rates, and unfortunately, there are some clients that just don't understand why there's a difference in rates. And you know, we'll have clients occasionally say to us, "Well, I could get this done cheaper overseas," and the reality is, then do it. You know, we can't lower our rates to their rates, and there comes a time where you need to value your time more so than just, you know, trying to onboard every single client, because that can also tank your business. If you try to bring on many different clients and, you know, you're reducing your rate because you're trying to grow, that'll stunt your growth even more than, you know, having a few clients. So I think that's probably our biggest issue, is when we're faced with the whole dilemma of, well, someone overseas can do it for cheaper. It's a client that we have to walk away from. And I think, Pete, you can probably...
So the number one thing I'm hearing here, guys, is relationships matter. And if you're not picking up the phone, if you're not seeing your clients, if you're not talking to your clients, and that's the number one thing I see with our generation as it's coming up now, is we're too much on the phones, guys. We need to be talking to people, building relationships. Face-to-face is critical, right? You can make a mistake, I'm sure each one of you can admit to this. If you have a relationship with them, they're much more lenient on you than if you had no relationship and that guy in India is just going to get fired and they're going to go on to the next one, right? There's nothing that separates them. Now, I know your industry sounds very difficult, but I guarantee making a phone call and at least being able to fight for what you're doing stands in there a lot more, and your reputation obviously got you into this. So.
Oh yeah, well I mean, face to face, like just earlier this week we were in LA, just meeting clients again. We were there the month before. New York's the same thing, just flying back and forth. Hey, how's it going? Actually committing to getting to know these people and know what they need and want, right? Because it's the animation world is that right at the crossroads between business and art. You can be an artist, you can, you know, have your ideas and just kind of throw paint on the canvas, but then if you have nobody to sell it to, you're homeless. I've been there. So having to have a good balance, left brain, right brain thinking, doing something creative is critical. And what I found too, like just picking up the phone and just saying, hey, how's it going? Just thinking about you.
Yep.
That goes a long way.
At the end of the day, it's not about B2B or B2C. I always say it's about H to H, right? It's human to human. We're all here. We all want that connection, and it's all about that. And I think that's, you know, the number one thing you can see from this that you need to have ultimately, and putting yourself out there. Questions from the crowd. Who's got a question for me? You guys have been at, all right, here we go. If you've ever been to anything with me, you know I like to run around and jump around, so that's what we're going to get here. I got it. Don't worry. I know you're going to do that.
So, like, how do you find these connections? Do you just go out there and find them, or is it through more personal, I don't know.
I'd say
How'd
always
you
be
find your
networking.
connections?
I would just never stop networking. Anywhere you are, talk to people about what you do, and almost become to a point where it's almost annoying. Don't get to that point, but get close to it because, I mean, you never know when you're going to meet your next client. The person that's sitting, in the room next to you could be your next big client. It could be your next big employer. So it's always be networking. And, by that logic, you could grow your own network, which, then you may have a friend who's looking for someone that is in your network. And, I think as Pete was saying, it's all about human to human. So as long as you keep that human interaction, and when you do meet someone, maybe they don't need your skills right now, you always follow up with them, always talk with them, and maintain that open line of communication.
Take me back to when I was 18, and the first gig I ever got was my first internship. I went to the only animation studio in the city, and it was a very small one. And I just knocked on the door, and I just kept coming back. Week after week, they're like, what do you want? Go away. No, we don't have anything for you. It's like, dude, I'll come and sharpen pencils for you. Go ahead. And that was just my way in. And I got to meet some really great people. They taught me a lot. And then just, they gave me a chance, whenever there was an opportunity to be like, hey, I could do that for you. Hey, I could do this. And I think just, networking, that's important. Being able to build the skill sets to actually follow through and keep your promises. That's a big one.
Yeah, I would get creative with your networking too. This is the creative panel, but sometimes even like say, there's a celebrity or something. I'm kind of relating it with my job. Say we want to get a dress on like Taylor Swift. Then we do this too. So we'll stalk her and kind of see like who she hangs out with. And those are actually the people that we would try to get a dress in front of. So then whenever she's getting her hair or makeup styled by that stylist, maybe she would be wearing a camelback dress and Taylor would have, I don't know, we have all these crazy scenarios that we try. But I don't know, you can just get really creative with it and you gotta think outside the box. And sometimes if there's a certain person that you think will help your business that you really want to get your line in front of, just get creative with it, and you really have to think outside the box with it, and it sometimes isn't the most traditional way.
Awesome. One more question here, and then we got to go right here in the front. If you want to, here, I'm close. I'll just jump down. Here you go.
I was actually going to comment on it. Is that right?
Sure.
I teach entrepreneurship, and I was one. And how many of you have heard of Lean Startup? Not too many. Well, it's replaced the traditional business plan in all the business schools, and it's far more successful. I just came from a class up at Hillsborough Community College as an instructor. And what I want to point out is it's based on a mythology called Customer Development Process by Steve Blank in California. How many people have heard of Steve Blank? Oh, folks, you got to go on the internet, steveblank.com. He's the godfather of Lean Startup. And anyway, the process of customer development has revolutionized startup. And the reason is you go to the end user, the early adopter who's going to pay for the product or the service, and you just constantly talk to them. So what I wanted to add was you can really answer that question by making yourself a student of Lean Startup / customer development.
Awesome.
They teach you how to do it, 10 interviews a week.
Sweet. Thank you so much. All right, we're out of time here. That wraps up the panel here. Thank you so much, guys, for taking time on a Saturday to come out here. We really enjoyed having you guys out here.